Hello, and welcome back to SpaceBourne 2. I'm finally able to get back to YouTube to give you a quick overview of the latest changes from the past 3 weeks. Each week had a new update available, with new additions, changes and bug fixes. Remember, you can use YouTube's chapter system in case you want to see only specific subjects. I was happy to see the developer change gears and go into bug fixing and polish mode for this update. The 1.0 update was focused on improving existing features as well as fixing top priority bugs. A couple of hotfixes were also made available over the weekend to fix some bad issues that slipped under our radars. You can now customize your ship perks through the ship upgrade system. This means you can finally remove incompatible perks with your build and add in something useful for your playstyle. In this example, I removed the weapon burst perk since I have no need for it in this ship with few guns. The upgrade system has also went through some balancing, but more work still needs to be done on it. If upgraded ships were becoming weak before, now they may actually be getting too overpowered. But you didn't hear it from me. As always, I highly recommend backing up your save before upgrading ships, as this system is still a work in progress. Soldier experience has been rebalanced, and damage is now tied to player soldier level. This will likely need more refinement in the future, and players who thought the game was too easy in the ground before may now find it too hard. Experience point and money rewards for looking for pilot and looking for mercenary missions have been rearranged. I don't know all the details here, but missions with different difficulty levels now clearly have different payouts. A new trade ship has been added to the game. It has much faster warp speed and flight speed compared to the other trade ships, and the developer seems to have plans to make this into a smuggling ship in the future. There are changes to trade item stacks, experience and interface changes. Each trade good now have different stack sizes. This can be seen on the Galaxy Trade interface. Performing trade now grants adventurer experience points, giving one more way to gain experience on this skill tree. The Galaxy Trade interface has been improved, and the buying and selling slider now allows up to 1000 items to be purchased at once. One last minute change we put was that if you try to buy more than your ship can fit, the operation will simply fill your ship to its maximum capacity. This should make trading smoother, but it seems to still lead to some cargo overload issues depending on your perks. This will need a review in the future. New star types, nebula backgrounds, and planet types were added to the game. This may take some traveling around to find. I would expect more of this to be added in the future, as it really helps bring out some personality to the multiple sectors and regions in the game. AI factions now gain experience points like players and level up. If you're an old timer in SB2, this can be a little wild, as playing for a bit in your save may make some weak factions jump in strength. However, on new saves this can provide a new sense of responsiveness to the game. This is a start to making the AI factions more alive over time. There were 2 changes to the defense battles that play out when you are at war with an AI faction and get attacked. The battles have been rebalanced, and AI versus AI battles, those in which the player is not involved, have been sped up by up to 2 times. A battle force value has been assigned to the fighting sides to better understand the instant status of attacks on player-owned stations. Overall, these 2 changes make it so if you don't want to personally go and defend your territory or structure, you don't have to, as long as you have strong enough forces that can handle the enemy attack on their own. If they can't, it should now be even more obvious. In 1.9.0, the dev delivered many top priority bug fixes. Versions often have too many bug fixes to list here, so I'll just point out ones that I take as noteworthy. A story quest named Fixing Up somehow got broken in 1.8.0 in more ways than one, and it got fixed here. During the reentry on a planet, sometimes we could see the surface of the planet. I guess this bug could look very ugly on live streams and videos. Let us know if you still see those. There was an old issue with faction operations not starting when you were on the same system as them. This has to be my favorite bug fix, because it was very annoying of a bug. People would tell us it was fixed and then they would tell us it was broken. In the end, I just realized the problem was miscommunication, and since the dev isn't primarily an English speaker and I am not primarily an English speaker, I just stopped everything and showed him what was going on, and he fixed it instantly. As an honorable mention, the bug where you could duplicate yourself accidentally when leaving your ship was fixed. This is funny because nobody never reported this with enough information for us to reproduce and fix it. I found out how to reproduce it by looking into a general thread talking about how funny it was to duplicate yourself. Sorry guys. I wonder if this is just like burst weapons, which are clearly broken and overpowered, and no one reports it as a bug.
I'm locking myself in this room. I changed the door.
Going back 1 week from 1.90, the 1.80 update focused on adding a brand new mission to the main storyline and expanding on the current faction building features in order to support this story mission. Some critical fixes were also dealt with here, but the update demanded much more time invested in developing the new mission and its features. This update included a whole new mission to the storyline, and although I want to avoid spoilers in this type of videos, the update also included a new unique ship that can only be obtained by playing through this mission. Players can now build mining, factory, and research stations for their faction. This was a much requested feature, and it's finally out there. The effects and animations of some perks and talents have been improved. The dev often makes small passes on things like this and improve the game over time. There was some iteration to the AI versus AI battles in this update, but it was improved later on the 1.90 version I mentioned earlier. Here's some noteworthy bug fixes from 1.80 and some of my comments on them. The income from the systems owned by the player wasn't being added to the faction income properly. This was the cause of much frustration coming from Empire building players. The issue is that, from a gameplay standpoint, the faction system wasn't, and still isn't, completely integrated with the different components of the game. This can lead to oversight like this, but it should be noted that the game's features should get increasingly more integrated over time. The payment for selling multiple stacks of trade goods wasn't being calculated correctly. This was a derp on our end coming from developing 1.70 that unfortunately made its way into the stable version and required a fix. Since this was working when we tested it, we got completely blindsided. To me personally, this is the kind of bug that I hate the most. As a player, it makes you think, doesn't the developer play their own game? And as a developer, it makes you think, sometimes, after restoring a ship, the ship would be shown as tier 0 with no equipment. This report actually started to be fixed on 1.70, and I'll tell you more about it during the next section of the video. Although this was very rare, it had the potential to ruin everyone's day. Going back one more week, 1.70 was the trading update. Its intent was to complete the work started on past versions to include the trading system and its mechanics to the game. The trading system first iteration was released in this version. Trade ships of different sizes were made available to be purchased at trade hubs and complexes. In order to trade, a trade ship needs to be bought first and docked at a trade hub or complex. Then, accessing the trade panel is done by pressing and holding E when docked, or by clicking on the trade panel button in the cockpit view. To find the best buy and sell prices, we can use the Galaxy Trade section of the Galaxy web screen. This lists all the trade information for all the different core systems as well as complexes. Of course, the trade hubs and production complex stations were finalized and made active. The way trading works is that complexes produces the trade goods, and those are hauled to the trade hubs for centralized shipping and trading between regions and factions. The player can purchase the goods on trade hubs for less travel time, and those are available on all capital systems and are just one jump away from each other. However, this may not be the most profitable route, as complexes also have supply and demand, and buying from them does not include the shipping fee found on trade hubs. Trading can be dangerous as different systems have different security levels, which also impacts how much the trade tax a system may apply to trading. Overall, the more dangerous trade runs should be the most profitable, and less dangerous runs less profitable. Of course, everything I'm saying is the intention for the system, and trading issues were fixed on the latest versions. Overall, the game still must be further developed in order for all game systems to be integrated properly, but this should give an idea of where the game is headed. Capital ship weapons have been upgraded. Automatic turrets now fire lasers, making them more effective against fighter-class ships. Capital ships still need a balancing pass, but the developer is listening to the feedback. A quick communication shortcut has been added to the game. With Ctrl 8, players can quickly get jump permission when near stargates. They can also request docking when near stations. This was likely one of the most requested features for a while, and it was the perfect time to add it, as without it, trading players would likely just do direct jumps to avoid jump gates or something. Ship prices have got a balancing pass. Although ship prices still need to be looked at, the dev often makes small balancing passes on things. Traditional Chinese and Brazilian Portuguese languages have been added to the game. The community has been awesome in making more languages available. Using the ship manager to switch ships too quickly would completely reset and break the starred ship's stats. This was caught and fixed. This bug could happen to any ship at any moment, and thankfully we caught it during testing this version. By this point, we only had 1 or 2 confusing reports about it that couldn't be reproduced, but it became obvious in this version due to the constant switching between trade ships. If we didn't notice this until the next version, it's likely many player ships would end up broken. This bug is the reason you now see a loading screen when changing ships. There was a bug in which, after creating the player faction, all the emails in the inbox got deleted and no new mails would be received. I have no clue how the developer managed to reproduce this, but this was a bit of a game-breaking bug that got quickly resolved. If you believe the game was too easy and that you were too good at it before this update, you may have been deceived. The Rebirth and Resurrect perks were bugged, and this issue would essentially turn on God mode if you had those perks. There were other situations in the past where the player would have too much health, healing, or even just plain old God mode. After those issues were resolved, it was funny to see people saying the game got too hard. The game didn't get harder, it was just now possible to die. If you wish to see the complete changelogs and bug fixes, I've linked the 3 changelogs on the description below. I'd like to thank all players for reporting bugs and issues. As the game is so complex, it's easy for things to slip under the radar, and it's getting easier for things to slip by at each version, given the game gets more complex at each new version. We're responding to this by giving more testing time to developer builds of the game, and also harnessing the power of the active and interested players through the dev build bug report section, which you can access by joining the game's official Discord and grabbing the beta tester role from the right channel. We are aware of the number of bugs and issues in the game, and personally, I get worried about that too. However, DBK is actively working on fixing the issues, while still reserving time to add new features and improvements. And it's clear to me now that this is not just how he prefers to work, but how he seems to work at his best. This may be completely irrelevant to players, but some developers don't mind bug fixing, and some get bored to death by it and can't wait to get back to making new things. Although we have to be professional, in game development, it is extremely easy to burn yourself out in all sorts of ways, from working 24/7 with no stop, to forcing yourself to make new and exciting things all the time, to lobotomizing yourself for jumping into one bug to the next for far too long. As with all things, and as it is with games, it requires balancing. I don't know the developer enough to affirm anything at this point, but I've been around long enough to see that expecting the game to lock down and work only on bug fixing is not realistic and shouldn't even be desired. And honestly, that came as a realization only recently. As the solo developer of SB2, at least in terms of content, DBK has a lot on his plate, and I'm glad he has allowed me to directly help him out for the time being. Let me know in the comments below if you wish for my future update news videos to follow this less neutral and more personal format. Although the video becomes longer, I guess if you guys just wanted to quickly check the latest changes, you just read the changelogs. If you would like to see more SpaceBourne 2 content in the future, remember to like and subscribe. I'll be coming back with the gameplay series as soon as I can, as I work on tracking all the bugs you report on the side. Have a good one, and fly angry.